Hello, this is IMonocleMan, and welcome to my first ever Minecraft video. I am super excited to get started here, so I hope you enjoy, and today we're going to be looking at some redstone clocks. I'm so excited because this is my first ever YouTube video. Also, just letting you know, if my sound and my editing is not amazing, that is because I'm new to YouTube, so just keep that in mind. Now, many of you guys watching this may not exactly be redstone engineers, so you might be wondering, what on earth is a redstone clock? Now, this is what I'm going to show you right here. So a redstone clock is basically a machine that does this for you. And as you can see, this can get quite annoying, having to constantly flick a lever if you want to get something happening. Especially if you want to, say, push a piston back and forth a lot. You don't really want to be standing here the whole time, but or if you're building, say, some kind of farm here, with a whole bunch of bone meal, like a wheat farm or something, you don't want to have to do this, because that's just that's just painful. Seriously. So yeah, that's what clocks are for. They're for better ways to do that. So the first clock we'll be showcasing in this video is the hopper clock. Now the good thing about the hopper clock is that it doesn't take very many resources. It just takes two hoppers facing into each other, like so. Of course you don't want something like this, because that means it's facing into the ground. You want the two hoppers to be facing into each other, and they have to look like this. And then you take a redstone comparator and lead it out of one of the hoppers, and then you can just chuck a block in, and there's your clock. There you have it. It's a clock. And if you and as you can see, the redstone dust, it's not very strong. The pulse is not very strong. And if you wanted to make it a bit stronger, you could just add a repeater in there, and that restores it to full strength. And of course, if you want it to be toggleable, you just add a lever right next to it. This won't affect either of these two. You just flick the lever, and there you go. There's the clock. Now, if you're wondering how this clock works, I'm going to show you right now. So you see, when an item is in this hopper, which in this case it's a lever, the comparator detects that item is in there. And then that means it gives off a redstone signal. However, if there is no item in the hopper, then it does not give off a redstone signal. So therefore, if it is locked, which means it's locked in this, then the clock will stop, because the comparator is not detecting any item in this hopper. Next, we have the repeater clock. Now, the good thing about the repeater clock is that you could extend this as far across the horizon as you want, because repeaters, their signal never runs out. And also, you could have it as delayed as possible, because with a repeater, you can change the delay from 1/10 of a second up to 4/10 of a second, or also known as ticks. So that's the good thing about these clocks, and they're actually really simple to make as well. You just take two repeaters, one facing in this direction and the other facing in this direction. You connect them up with redstone dust. It's easier to start by setting them to 4 ticks. And then you have to give them a redstone pulse, and then you have to quickly... Oh, I didn't do that properly there. And then you have to... If that does happen, just break a piece of redstone and replace it like I did there. And you have to give it a redstone pulse, but you have to remember to break the lever very quickly. Otherwise, you might get something happening that looks a bit like this. Here, I'm just going to show you quickly. Otherwise, you might get something that looks a little bit like this. And this isn't a clock, it's just, well, not really sure what you call it. Would you call it a power source? I'm not really sure. I'll leave it up to you in the comment section. Now, this is one of my favourite redstone clocks, which unfortunately I couldn't remember the name of. But the reason it's my favourite is, well, it's actually probably shouldn't be my favourite, because it's not the most efficient. But the reason it is my favourite is because it's the one that I've known about the longest. And it's really, really simple. So, you see, all you have to do is you have to have a block over here. I chose red wall. Redstone torch over here, a redstone line leading out of it, and of course that's powered because the redstone torch powers it, leading over here like that, then into a repeater. Make sure the repeater is set to 2 ticks just to make sure that the torch does not burn out. Then you lead the redstone line up onto the torch, and what this does is this deactivates the torch, and then it eventually deactivates this redstone, reactivating the torch, and then the cycle just keeps on going like so. Our next design over here is called the torch clock. Now the way it works is it has a series of NOT gates, which are just a torch with a block on it with a piece of redstone leading into it like so. The way it works is it has a series of NOT gates, each leading into each other. Now, this is one of the more bulky designs, so if you're very into space efficiency, you might not like this design much, and you might want to go with one of the previous designs. But the thing about this design is that you have to remember it must have an odd number of torches, because if it's an even number, well, let me show you what will happen if it's an even number. So, we're going to take 4 instead of 3 this time. And because there is 4 instead of 3, it sort of doesn't work as a clock because there's 2 that's unpowered and there's also 2 that's powered. So it has to be 3, so at least there's always either 2 that are powered and 1 that's not powered, or 2 that is unpowered and 1 that is powered. So you see, the way you build it is you just do what I've done here, but instead of adding an extra torch, you just lead the redstone along like this, and then you have your torch clock. So yeah, it's a really, really simple design, but just remember, it has to have an odd number of torches in it, because if it's an even number, let's just say, it won't really be a clock. Now, the next clock we have over here is quite a bit more complicated, I must say, and so you see, the reason for that is that the way it works is that, I'm just going to stop the circuit for a minute, is that, so the redstone torch is under here. I'm just going to quickly explain how it works. The redstone torch is under here. They power this block, and I'm using that, as you can see, if there was a block here, say, if there was a block here, it would push, and that broke no redstone because I've broken it before, so that's a relief. And so this piston will just, I'm just going to quickly break it so I don't get any more broken redstone. Because this block is powered, it then powers a redstone line, which then powers this piston. It has to be a repeater, otherwise you'll get something like this happening, which is, that won't work, just to put it simply. And also, the reason this clock is sort of a bit more complicated, it actually might be a bit useless because it's a little bit slower than the others, but the fact that it's slower, that might actually be a good thing, because look, I don't know, you guys let me know in the comment section why you think this thing's cool. Now, it's a very, very noisy clock, I must say, so I'm just going to quickly turn it off like that. And you can also make another one without torches, like you don't actually need torches, but you can actually make it instead with a block of redstone. And if you do use a block of redstone, then you don't need the torches underneath. However, don't expect to just, like, miraculously power a block. Don't expect that this block will be powered if it doesn't have a torch underneath. So don't, just to make sure you don't be disappointed. So yeah, that is this design for you. For our next clock, we have a very, very, very fast clock. Now you see, what I'm going to do when I pull this lever is you're just going to see how fast exactly it is. And as you can see, it's actually too fast for the piston to actually sense that it's pulsing. And that is, I'm not really sure what that's useful for. Maybe, like, there are probably ways to make it useful. I've tried it on droppers as well. It only fires it out once before, well, see, it only fires once, and so I'm not really sure what this clock is useful for. I think if it was, like, if you could somehow slow it down by doing something along these lines, yeah, that could be, that might be, no, that might be a bit more useful, but currently people just, like, build things like this, and I don't really see the point of that. But, like, You might find a use for it. I certainly am not smart enough to do that because, you know, like, I'm just not. For our final design, we have this. And this, I'm not really sure what it's called, but I do know that it has quite a fast pulse. Let's just see here. Now, as you can see, this is a 1-tick pulse, which is slightly faster than over here, which I believe is a 0-tick pulse. But the thing about this 1-tick pulse is that, as you can see here, the block is actually staying up in the air for twice the length that the clock gives a pulse, because using the same mechanics as the toggle flip-flop, which I will feature in another video, using the same mechanics as the toggle flip-flop, a sticky piston, when it's given a 1-tick pulse, it actually releases the block that it's holding onto. I'm going to try my best to simulate a 1-tick pulse, and I'm not very good at this. Yep, and as you can see, when you give it a 1-tick pulse, it lets go of the block. So, if you guys are wondering how exactly this clock works, I'm going to tell you right now. So you see, this redstone torch is powering the block next to the piston, and when a block is next to a piston, when a block that's being powered is next to a piston, you can see that the piston extends. And so what it is it's extending these 2 slime blocks which are attached to the block, and it's pulling it up. But then, because I'm just going to turn it off now. Oh, actually, that's not going to turn back on. But then, because the piston is then, hold on, I'm just going to fix that quickly. But that's better. So then, because the piston is not powered, it then retracts, becoming powered again, and there you go, that's the 1-tick pulse. And so yeah. So there you have it. Those are all the clocks that I know of. There are probably a trillion more different clocks you can build in Minecraft, redstone clocks I mean. But those are just the ones that I've showcased in this video. Let me know down in the comments if you think I missed any that were important, and I'll catch you later. Oh, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and please subscribe, because that would really make my day. It is my first ever YouTube video, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!